What is going on, YouTube? This is Jam back with another ultra-wide video review for you guys today, looking at Cyberpunk 2077. I'm calling this the re-review because I did review this game some time ago, and it's changed considerably. The question I'm going to try to answer for you all today, is it worth your time? Before we begin, I have two simple requests of you. Number one, ignore the mess over here. I'm in the middle of redoing my office, and it allows me to do standing reviews, so I can freely move around and wave my hands like a hyena, a goal of mine. And number two, please consider subscribing if you like this content, because this does take some time to put together, and I need to validate my online experience with your support, all right? So Cyberpunk 2077 came out some time ago. I bought it at launch, as I think a lot of people did, hoping that it was going to be the next big thing. And unfortunately, that didn't quite pan out. The game was littered with so many game-breaking bugs and continuity issues that I, like many other people, ultimately said, thanks but no thanks, and put it on the shelf. Some time has passed, and I decided it was time to look at it again. And I have been playing it now for about 15 hours, thankfully with no crashes or major game-breaking bugs. Still plenty of regular bugs, though. We'll talk about those in just a moment. But ultimately, I feel like it's in a better place, but it's not quite in that polished place that I think a lot of people think has gotten to, because I think we're up to like patch 1.6 or 1.7. They've released so many content patches and upgrades and roadmaps and everything. It's honestly hard to keep track of what's going on. But I will say that the game is in a better state than when it came out. So if you're not familiar with anything Cyberpunk, that's totally fine. I think a lot of people kind of totally dismissed this game very quickly when they realized how broken it was. You've probably seen those footage, some of the footage online of how bad it looked on like the PlayStation 4 or the OG Xbox console. I've never had a quality issue on PC. What I've always run into is some weird game-breaking things, like this one right here. You're looking at me in the middle of a mission, and while I'm in the middle of the mission, I'm getting a call from another person about their mission. So I just finished what I was about to do. The flow of the game is now somewhat broken. I'm like, wait a minute, why are you calling me, Claire Russell? I'm supposed to be calling this other person named Regina to let them know that I've dispatched a hard enemy with my ninja sword. But I can't because you're talking. So I have to wait till you're done. Now, if there's a lot of dialogue from Claire or from other NPCs that interrupt you, guess what? You're going to sit and wait. And sometimes it's expecting you to respond via a dialogue option or by other things, and you just have to go through the process, which is aggravating. So that's definitely a consistency problem that I see quite a bit. The flow of the game is constantly overlaying itself. Okay, so we got off the phone with this woman. Now I'm going to send the information to Regina. I'll call Regina and say, hey, Regina, I have the information for you. Look at my dialogue option. Catch you later. That means this isn't the right way to send Regina the information. No, what the game wants you to do is open up your phone, but not call her. Instead, text her said information, which you'll see me do now, opening the tab, clicking on Regina's name, opening the text message, and replying to let her know that I have defeated the particularly difficult enemy. Please send me rewards and loot. And she says, not a problem. That's what closes the mission. This is what I'm talking about with this game. There's a lot of really good things here. You saw all of those messages that I had. Active conversation with many NPCs. Many characters calling me, asking me for advice, asking me for help, trying to make an impact in the world, trying to make an impact in the city, that all overlay each other. Now, this is but one of many examples that I could go on to talk about. How about the time when I'm in the middle of dialogue with one NPC and another NPC starts talking to me and the voices overlay each other? And I have to select an option to one or both at the same time, and the game gets confused of who I'm responding to. There's times where the NPC that I'm talking to just stops talking altogether. While I can still read the text because I have closed captions on, I don't hear any audio response. And basically my character's like, hey, how are you? That's great. I'm good too. And it's like, wait, what? If you didn't have closed captions on, you would miss their response. It's very baffling, and the flow of this game does suffer because of it. And you will have lots of overlaying dialogue because it's a very dense game. There's a lot going on. There's moving parts everywhere. Every nook and cranny of the city is going to involve some attack or something to explore or to hack or a new mission to take on. Take this as another example. I'm pulling up to grab my motorcycle when suddenly there's a gang blockade in the middle of the street. Well, this is cool. I wasn't expecting a fight. Not a problem. I will dispatch these enemies with ease. I just wanted to show that this game is very dense, and you will see a lot of this. But particularly in main missions, particularly in some of the very dialogue-heavy scenes, you're going to experience definite problems, and it does break the ambiance. Speaking of ambiance, this game has it in spades, and it is one of the, if not the most beautiful open world games I have ever played. The ability to walk around Night City, to walk in and out of shops and apartment districts and corporation areas and low-lying slums and very high-rise industrial areas with ease, to be able to hack your way through things or sneak through things or scan people or find collectibles or treasures is honestly jaw-dropping. This game will absolutely make you feel like it is the year 2077 in this cyberpunk universe where humanity has basically given up their humanity, so to speak, for lots of augmentation and robotic parts. You'll be constantly bombarded by advertisements and large corporations vying for your attention. There's a lot of side things to do in this world, to go out and to lose yourself in the city, with a lot of optional activities and exploration that encourages you to navigate the universe. And it's a lot of fun to just get lost in it. But I go back to the first point that I made. How many times are you going to be lost in the universe only to have it stripped away from you because something weird happens and you get a very weird sequencing bug? Keep that in mind as you explore through the city. Now, the main story itself, which I have yet to beat, and by the way, I guess I should point out, the first time I played Cyberpunk, I was maybe 15 hours into the game. Here I'm more like 30, but a bigger emphasis on side missions this time than the Golden Path as before. But regardless if you're doing side missions or the main story, I have to give credit to this game. There's a lot of dialogue. Now, you saw in a lot of the choices, there's always a yellow highlighted dialogue. That's like, that will progress the story. You'll also have a lot of blue dialogue below it. The blue dialogue will just give you ancillary information if you want to know about a particular character. Now, the cool thing is sometimes blue dialogue will actually spawn new yellow dialogue. And in order to unlock yellow dialogue, which is how you progress the story, there's a couple things that go into play. Number one, have you done something that directly relates to this NPC that you can leverage? Like, somebody says, hey, go do this fetch quest. You could say, already did it, and that option will appear. Two, you may have a particular item on you that you've looted or a piece of knowledge you've gained by talking with somebody else that you can interject with. Or three, and this is pretty traditional of most RPGs, is there'll be some sort of strength check or cool check or intelligence check. Basically, if you put enough statistics in certain attributes, you can bully your way through things or outsmart enemies or lie your way to get a desirable outcome. And since each mission is played out in a massive amount of different ways, these dialogue options absolutely matter. Perfect example, one of the early missions you'll take on revolves around you doing something for a gang. And I'm being generic in my explanation because I don't want to spoil too much, but I'll just say that there are a lot of ways to handle this. You can walk in guns blazing and murder every single one of them. You could use your technology to hack your way through without being seen. You could sneak through on your own, old school Assassin's Creed style, hiding behind boxes and work your way through. Or you could talk your way out of the situation entirely and never lift a finger. Awesome. I love this. I love that I can put stat points in my character and I can customize in things that matter to me and attributes that are specific to my character and specific to my build, which allow me to play the game in my own way. No two playthroughs will be the same because you're going to put stat points in your character different than I'm going to put them in mine. Stat points not only unlock those really cool dialogue options, but they also unlock separate skill trees, which then enhance the ability of which those points have been assigned. As an example, body, which is basically your strength. By unlocking points in body, you'll unlock attributes like melee attack, which makes sense, or swinging a sword, which I guess by kind of comparison is a melee attack if you think about it, or carrying capacity. You might have other stat points that you want to put into being more intelligent, which allows you to hack things quicker, or to gain more information from NPCs, or to uncover things quicker. So there's a lot of different ways to play. There's no build that works like the golden build. Just have fun and put points into things that matter to you. The game has done a very good job of kind of balancing out. So if you put all your points into body, trust me, you'll be able to intimidate and to muscle your way through just as many challenges if you put all of your points into cool and you're able to outwit and, you know, verbally dismantle enemies, so to speak. So the game does a really good job of allowing you to kind of work through all of those different attributes to pick a build that works best for you. And I like that. The other thing that I really like about the game is the music. And the way that this game kind of embraces music is when you're in a vehicle, obviously, there's multiple soundtracks and radio stations. This is a Grand Theft Auto trope that's been around since the beginning of time. But there's a lot of mission music that kicks in. A lot of it is by the guy who did the Dread soundtrack. Which is really, really cool if you're into, like, I call it techno. I'm sure some people are going to correct me and say, no, it's trance or it's environmental. I don't know, but very heavy synthetic instrumentation, almost a flair of 80s with like a really hard rock beat to it. You're going to be able to hear that while you're doing missions. And I got to tell you, it makes you feel like a total badass, and it's tons of fun. And you're going to have a lot of fun with it. So the ambiance is there. The environment is there. The music is there. Let's talk about the gameplay. Is the gameplay there? Well, yes and no. Again, playing on PC, playing on Ultrawide, using a keyboard and a mouse, I've had no issues controlling. I've had no issues driving my car around or moving my character to, you know, be able to analyze clues or to, you know, walk around or to make dialogue choices. Everything works very easy and fluently for me. My buddy Sid, who plays on PlayStation 5, he seems to be struggling a little bit more than me. I'm not sure if it's just an adaptation of how the controller support works versus the keyboard and mouse support, but ultimately the game feels fluid to play, at least on keyboard and mouse. I'd also like to say that because there are so many different types of guns, and there are so many different ways to fight enemies through hacking or through the various technical upgrades that you'll get in your character, or through the various guns that you're just going to loot, you're going to find a weapon or you're going to find a flavor of how to engage with an enemy that works to your style. Again, feeds back into this role-playing narrative that gives you the feel of being this character in this world. And you will get lost in the world, upgrading your gun and upgrading your character and making really smart choices for your particular build, which will make you the most lethal character you can be. And that's really a lot of fun. So when you put it all together, the last piece that I really want to focus on is the actual story. And because of how broken a lot of the sequencing is in this game, the main story, unfortunately, comes off very laughable at times. A very brief example that I don't have the footage of here, but I'll talk you through it because it was just so bizarre to me. I wasn't recording at the time, and I really wish that I was. The first time you meet Johnny Silverhand, without giving away any spoilers, it's going to be very confrontational. There's something significant that happens in both your lives that you'll find out about in the first 3 or 4 hours of gameplay that really brings both characters literally to a head. And what's going to happen is you're going to leave that discussion with him on very bad terms. Now, the game is going to do its best to force you on the golden path initially. It's going to take away your car. It's going to basically force you to go in a particular direction. But you know me, you know how much I want to go explore Night City, how much I love this environment and the ambiance. I want to go see something that isn't in the main story. And when you do that, boy, oh boy, do you start breaking sequencing very, very rapidly. Because you will have another instance where you interact with Johnny Silverhand just moments after you guys got done screaming and yelling at each other, where he's all of a sudden your buddy. And then when you go back to the main mission, guess what? He's your enemy again. This happens time and time again. The game designers did not do a very good job of what happens if. That's the greatest phrase I can give. What happens if I go here first? What happens if I equip this gun instead of this? What happens if I open my menu to change my skills while the character is talking to me? This is where the simulation ultimately starts to break down, where you start to encounter a massive amount of bugs, a massive amount of sequence breaking things that don't make a lot of sense. Now, thankfully, as I said at the beginning of this review, I have yet to find anything that left me completely unable to proceed. This was not the case at launch. At launch, I encountered a major bug in which a character did not open a door, and I was unable to proceed unless I entered a no-clip command and walked through a wall, which I was not willing to do. Thankfully, those issues have been rooted out. But back to the question at the beginning of this video. Did the game get fixed? Yes, but no. That's where you have to ask yourself, is this worth the investment in what appears to be a very polished, robust simulator of being in this city, a future mercenary out to fight evil and to, get ahead in this world? Understand that there's going to be a lot of times where things just don't make sense. Cops will still spawn in behind you out of thin air. Enemies will die in a T-pose. Enemies will pop in from seemingly nowhere. You'll instantly have enemies that are aggressive towards you, but then aren't. None of which absolutely destroys the game and completely prohibits you from playing, but definitely not something that's polished. Perfect example right here. This enemy is knocked down. I'm going to assassinate him with my sword, and then suddenly they pop back up, and then they fall back down to be assassinated. It's very bizarre. But I will close with this. If you are a fan of getting into an environment and getting lost in rich storytelling, and you're willing to overlook a polished game, you can't compare this to a game like The Last of Us. You can't compare this to a game like Spider-Man, where it makes narrative sense. The choices, the dialogue, the missions, they all feed into a single narrative. You can't compare this game to that. If you're looking for a game where you're going to put stat points in and get lost walking around for hours, fighting enemies and looting different treasures and finding your way and getting lost in the city, this is absolutely the game for you, and they have fixed it in that sense. So with that, I close out this video review. I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on Cyberpunk 2077. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.